Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Welcome back to my talk show. As you noticed, maybe yesterday, dollar yen movement from the high price to low price, that difference, the range, in other words, is 6 yen. Can you believe 6 yen? You see, even Bank of Japan sometimes do the intervention, right? So in the case of the intervention, dollar will move maybe 3 yen to 5 yen, but yesterday 6 yen. Why? Because the governor of Bank of Japan, Mr. Ueda, announced that the BOJ will challenge it to the yield curve control, maybe within this year or maybe early in January. So this news really give the big impact toward the market of the dollar yen market, and then dollar went down from top to bottom. The difference is 6 yen. Is really big incident. Everybody call this is an incident. Okay. By the way, why market will be impacted or influenced by the yield of the government bond. So today, I want you to understand the meaning of the government bond, particularly U.S. government bond, in proper manners, okay? So I would like to introduce one video which was produced by the Wall Street Journal. So, Mr. Delagut, can you show the video now? Oh, this is a stupid commercial. Yeah, this is it.
Watching. Some commodity prices and 10-year Treasury yields have climbed.
That's the president of the Federal Reserve of Atlanta last March, speaking about how the Fed gauges inflation and why it's keeping a close eye on certain bond yields. U.S. government bond yields are a barometer for the economy, but they're also more than that.
U.S. government bond yields are extremely important to the U.S. and even the global economy. Bond yields affect everything from the cost of a mortgage to the cost of borrowing for businesses. If you're borrowing money, that's going to be determined to a large extent by U.S. government bond yields.
And changes in yields can impact you. Here's how bond yields work and why they're so crucial to the economy. When we talk about a bond yield, we're typically talking about the annualized return an investor earns by holding a bond until its maturity date. Let's break this down. A bond is a contract with features that are set from the start. There's the maturity date, which refers to the length of the bond's life. This is generally 2 to 30 years. Bonds that mature between 2 and 10 years are also called notes. Then there's its face value, which is the amount the bond is worth when it's first created, and the amount it is guaranteed to pay on the maturity date. There's also the annual interest rate, otherwise known as the coupon rate. This is the fixed amount a bond pays each year up to its maturity date. So say an investor buys a new 10-year Treasury note with a face value of $1,000 and a coupon, or yield, of 4%. Every year, the investor will receive $40, and on the 10th year, she'll get back the original $1,000 she paid for the bond. But here's the thing. As soon as she buys that bond, she can sell it to other investors. And when she does, certain features of the bond are subject to change. If the economy is doing well, interest rates may go up, which means new bonds will be issued at a higher yield, bringing down the value of existing bonds. Say a new batch of 10-year treasuries pay a yield of 5%. Suddenly, this bond is less attractive to investors, and the price has dropped. When the price goes down, the yield goes up. And when interest rates go down, this same dynamic happens in reverse. The inverse relationship between the price of a bond and its yield is key to understanding why investors care so much about bond yields. and why you sometimes see yields and stocks both going up at the same time.
Investors generally like bonds because they are a safe investment. The problem is that that return is going to be often lower, much lower than stocks.
Sam Goldfarb covers changes in bond yields and how they're connected to financial markets and the economy.
If investors are confident about the economy, they might not be satisfied with the small return they can get from US government bonds. They might choose to buy stocks instead.
But climbing treasury yields also signal that borrowing is getting more expensive.
It's basically a proxy for longer term interest rates. If you want to get a rough sense of, where your mortgage rates are going to be going, you might look at the 10-year treasury note and its yield.
Bond yields aren't just watched by economists and investors. The Federal Reserve keeps a close eye on them as well. And they're not just watching. Bond yields are a key part of monetary policy that the Fed uses to help influence the economy.
There's been an underlying sense of an improved economic outlook, and that has to be part of why rates would move back up from the extraordinarily low levels they were at.
That's the chairman of the Federal Reserve in March 2021, talking about the rise in bond yields during the economic crisis. In 2020, the Fed had slashed short-term interest rates it controls to zero in an effort to bolster the economy and encourage spending. And bond yields, which are heavily influenced by the outlook of short-term interest rates, also fell to record lows. 2 years.
Wasting all your energy on outdated accounting software? Switch to QuickBooks Online Accountant. Your clients can manage invoices.
Few things in the
Where your mortgage rates are going to be going, you might look at the 10-year treasury note and its yield.
Bond yields aren't just watched by economists and investors. The Federal Reserve keeps a close eye on them as well. And they're not just watching. Bond yields are a key part of monetary policy that the Fed uses to help influence the economy.
There's been an underlying sense of an improved economic outlook, and that has to be part of why rates would move back up from the extraordinarily low levels they were at.
That's the chairman of the Federal Reserve in March 2021, talking about the rise in bond yields during the economic crisis. In 2020, the Fed had slashed short-term interest rates it controls to zero in an effort to bolster the economy and encourage spending. And bond yields, which are heavily influenced by the outlook of short-term interest rates, also fell to record lows. 2 years later, much of the economy has rebounded.
The economy has rapidly gained strength despite the ongoing pandemic, giving rise to persistent supply and demand imbalances and bottlenecks, and to elevated inflation.
Last December, inflation rose 7% from a year earlier, the fastest pace since 1982. This reflected rapidly rising prices on everything from houses to groceries. And when the Fed wants to restrain an overheated economy, it raises short-term interest rates. And when interest rates rise, bond yields go up as well.
If inflation is uncomfortably high, people don't like that. The Fed has a goal of keeping prices stable, and so it'll try to cool the economy by raising borrowing costs.
Higher interest rates can send up the price of mortgages and other loans, which will likely slow down consumer spending. This sounds like a bad thing, but only to a point. Higher bond yields can help cool down the economy, which should bring down inflation in the long term.
I think the video is not so. Okay, can I start? Okay, I think today's video we have some technical problem, so I would like to resume to show this video. This is very important for you to understand the U.S. government bond, particularly the yield. Many people say interest rate, but this is not the interest rate. This is the yield. Generated from the government bond, U.S. government bond. So I would like to do this video with my little slide next Tuesday. Sorry about today's technical problems. I apologize very much, but don't worry. See, next Tuesday, I would like to show this video together with this my little slide explaining the difference between interest rate and yield. I don't want you to have a misunderstanding. Okay, interest rate and then the bond yield is entirely different according to this worksheet, you may understand next Tuesday. Okay, so stay tuned with us, and please accept my apology that today's the video is not perfect at all. Okay, thank you very much for your watching.